What is up, YouTube? McIntyre here. Today I wanted to bring you guys the new tier list update video. Today we're going to be talking about the Ragnaros patch, and it is 12/16. So it's been actually a month exactly since the last time we did one of these videos, and we're going to do this real time. So I'm going to update a lot of this stuff with you guys in this video today, and then talk about why some of these picks are up and some of these picks are down. I think the first pick that a lot of people want to talk about, and I guess at this point I've probably played about 40 games of Hero League, maybe 50. The first tier that we really want to bring up is Rag, since he is the newest addition. I would put Rag, I think, at tier 1 assassin at the moment. His kit, just his ability to proxy lanes with his one ultimate and kind of push off any siege attempt with his passive, I think puts him above. Right now, he actually does a good amount of damage, even though his kit isn't that impactful. His numbers are really high, and as you guys know, most of the time raw numbers are usually really good. So in this case, we have very raw numbers coming into play with a couple, impactful abilities, like I said, with either his wave proxying a lane or his passive shutting down a push. So both are really powerful, and for that reason I think Rag is in fact a tier 1 assassin. The next pick that I think people want to talk about, and I actually wanted to check where I had him at on my list, is going to be Diablo. This is another great example of someone who just has incredibly powerful numbers, and Diablo in this case is going to be that hero. We're going to move him to tier 1 underneath ETC. I believe that ETC is still better because of his kind of utility that he has. Although I do think that Diablo is very, close to being right behind him. The one issue with Diablo is that if you pick him on maps where there's not many walls, then he's kind of weak actually. But he still, like I said, has really high numbers, and those numbers translate into a higher tier, right? Being able to point and click stun also punishes Hero League players a lot of the time. Just like ETC with his slide, Diablo's is almost even more guaranteed. And, as long as you have some form of follow-up, you will be able to pick up a kill. The next one is going to be Dahaka. I think Dahaka is still exactly where he's at. I would rather have Muradin Dahaka, because the problem with picking Dahaka is you might have to solo tank him, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Whereas Muradin, you can still solo tank, but Dahaka is still really powerful, and I like him where he's at right there. The next one is Artanis. Here he is. So Artanis also got a buff. I do think that it's really good in Hero League. I don't think that it's tier 1 in Hero League. So I'm actually going to move him up to tier 2. The highest of tier 2. I'll move Joanna behind Tyrael, Varian, then Shin. And I believe Arthas is going to lose some steam just because of the Diablo. We'll probably move him here, and we'll actually move Leo up because of the Diablo again. And Dahaka. Both picks Leo does fairly well against, so he'll come up because of that. I still think that this warrior for tier 2 lineup is fair. I don't really see anything off. The only thing that I would say is Chin, but I know Chin can actually be very impactful if used correctly, so I kind of like him in that spot. Let's look at some tier S's, because I think some of these need to be changed. Rag might be tier S. Zeratul for sure is no longer tier S, because Zeratul does nothing really against Diablo other than gank him. But he still kills a lot of people, and in Hero League I still think he's impactful, so I'm putting him below Li Ming. I have had the most success with Li Ming this patch, to be honest, so I'm going to keep her where she's at too. So Zeratul comes down a tier. he's still really impactful in Hero League, but we have so much health bars that, you know, Zeratul is not going to be as strong as prior to this patch, right? Killing Diablo as Zeratul is a lot harder than killing like ETC or Muradin, and even then, you know, you're not really killing those heroes. But I guess I should say killing Diablo and Daka or something, right? Because there's most of the time double tanks. Zeratul has a harder time doing that. So, whereas like Tychus, right, should probably actually come up to, I'd say, a little bit above Zeratul. This looks more powerful to me. The Alarak comes down, and I believe is replaced by Thrall, because Thrall has a much better time against these tanky heroes, and we're going to move Alarak to tier 2, who has a much harder time against the tanky heroes, right? So the meta's shifting to these tanky. Burst isn't going to cut it as much. Damage and raw numbers are going to help you out here. That's where we want to really be looking at, right? So we have our Samurai, for example. Like, this does not work anymore. There's too much health. Sustain and sustain damage is where we want to be at. So for me, he comes down to probably right below Kerrigan, I would say. Samurai probably goes right there. We move Gul'dan up. Probably behind the Thrall. I think the more I look at it, I want to put Rag at tier S. I think his numbers are just too good at the moment. And we move Vala down. She is still very powerful, but probably weaker than the Leeming Tychus. So I would say right about there. She's very comp dependent. Whereas the Leeming and Tychus don't need any other heroes to be picked in order for them to be powerful. Whereas I sometimes feel like Vala does. I would say that's probably where I have the range damage in Hero League though. As far as tier 1s. So when we look at specialists now, I don't believe there's any changes to any of the specialists. Abathur would probably still be my only tier 1. We do have Malfurion at tier S. I still believe that firmly. The root is just too powerful on Malf, and his silence can turn a fight immediately. I also really like Drone at level 1 on Malfurion. Being able to like have vision of your flanks always helps, especially in Hero League. So we look at our tier 1 supports. We have a new tier 1 support in town. His name is Rhaegar. He's back. And I want to say there's a few reasons for him being back for me. The first is going to be Healing Ward. Again, we have a lot of health heroes out there. And his 30-second Healing Ward is super value. The second is obviously going to be the buff to Bloodlust. It's so powerful if the other team doesn't have anything to deal with it. And I think no one's really drafting things to deal with it. Or, you know, they are and they're not playing it correctly. So, Brightwing, still good. Still a sustain meta. Still does fine. Ariel, still good. You know, slap any of these range carries a hat, and then she's going to put out lots of healing. So we'll look at it. So we'll move down towards our tier 2s. These are like kind of all melee assassins, honestly. If you look at the list here, there is a new, I'd say a new hero that I want to put at tier 2 over this Lunara. It's going to be Chromie. The change to, we'll move Lunara down. She's definitely in front of Nova. So the change to Chromie being able to get her talents 2 levels in advance is actually huge, and will punish a lot of players in Hero League. And for that, I do think she is higher. She just needed a little nudge to get to a place that is really powerful, and I think she's gotten there. So Tass, Lily, Medic, these are all really powerful still if left unpunished. Uther, I'd say, is still very weak. The Anub'arak did get a buff. I'm not really sure how much that helped, but I do think that he's still the weakest warrior at the moment. I'm looking over everything else, and I believe everything else is right around where I want it to be at. Most of the heroes that I would say Kerrigan probably comes down to tier, actually. Yeah, she doesn't do that well against a lot of these bigger bodies. The same with like the Zeratul, but Zeratul has an easier time of just one-shotting the backline than Kerrigan does. It'll be interesting to see if we, this is a speculation, but it'll be interesting to see if we see a pickup of Illidan to kind of control some of these tankier guys. Because if the other team doesn't take enough damage, then Illidan will shine, especially with the Rhaegar Bloodlust. So we might start to see more Illidan. The other hero that we could see is Sonya, but I don't believe that as much. As Sonya, even prior to this patch, got countered by Diablo. And we used to see MVP Black take Diablo against Sonya during the Infernal Shrine Sonya meta because it countered Sonya. The reason for it is that Diablo has two abilities that knock Sonya around, and Sonya has a hard time of surviving if she's getting knocked around, right? She does fine against CC because of her ultimate, right? But Diablo's CC isn't like a stun bar. It's like it moves you, right? The slam is a CC, but it's not a stun. But you can't control your character during the time that he's doing it. So yeah, I think everything else is probably the same. I would move Zagara down to tier 4 so that no one plays the hero. I find her to be completely useless and unimpactful. The only thing that she has going for her is that she can maul the Diablo Flame Breath, but he'll never be doing that. The Nazebo maybe got a spike. And I think the reason that he would have gotten a spike is that he does well against these bigger bodies. Again, I think the meta is going to shift into a kind of have your own sustain, do some damage meta. So be able to keep yourself alive and deal damage. And Nazebo has a huge health pool. So he kind of can hold his own without requiring the team to like constantly heal him, right? That's why like I think Leeming and Tychus are very powerful, whereas Vala for me has fallen off a little bit. She's still so powerful and still does a lot of damage, but like the Gul'dan's coming up because he has built-in sustain, and he kind of does really well in a team fight, even though, you know, I mean, he obviously does better if he gets the target heals, the pocket heals, but he does fine without full-on pocket heals. I think this is probably where the list is at now. I think the biggest winners are the ones that we would assume are the biggest winners. The Diablo would be the biggest winner of this patch, but some coming up winners are going to be, I think, the Leoric. He's maybe can see more play than where he's at right now. The Gul'dan pick has started to come up a lot more for me, as well as the Rhaegar pick. As I used to hate Rhaegar about 6 months ago. I would even say like maybe even 3 months ago. And now with a few changes, I think really it's the number changes. Again, we always talk about numbers and raw numbers. So it's not so much, oh, they gave this person an ability that changes up the way that he flows. It's more like they made this ability do 25% more damage, right? And with Rhaegar, they did that. They made his bite deal more. They made his auto deal more. They made his lightning shield deal more, you know? And then we add on the fact that they do all that, and then they do the ability thing. They give the lifesteal to him. It's like a little much. They push him a little much. But I do not mind this patch at all. I really actually like it a lot. It is a very bruiser heavy patch. It is a very sustain heavy, and I say sustain in the sense that people have lots of health, so you have to mow through a lot of damage. You're pushing lots of damage. You're not pushing burst. You're just pushing lots of damage. So for that reason, yeah, a few of these heroes are starting to come up, and this patch should still continue to change, and this tier list will continue to change as the patch kind of unfolds more. But I do think that this is a good starting point for drafting in Hero League at the moment. And if you are looking to grind for GM early, I think this is what you want to be doing currently. So that is going to be it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed this video and you have any further questions or counter arguments, please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear you guys kind of opinions on a lot of this stuff. The only thing that I ask is that you don't carry one of your one tricks into your arguments and say that, oh, I play this hero, and oh, I do really well with this build, and oh, why isn't this hero tier 1, right? I would more so like if you argued this hero is good because he does X against meta hero or meta strategy, right? But you can always check me out on Twitch and Twitter as well. Those are both located below. I do try to stream on Twitch pretty much every single night, so hopefully I can catch you guys there. But this is going to be it for me today, guys, in this video. Again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.